The catering manager from my son's rehearsal dinner called me on a Tuesday morning and said, "Mr. Wallace, I found something on our security footage that you need to see before this wedding happens. Please don't bring your son. Come alone. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments." I was standing in the kitchen of my restaurant when the call came in. Wallace's Southern Table, the flagship location on Peachtree Street in Atlanta. 41 years I'd been running this place. Started with a food truck parked outside Braves games in 1985, turned it into 3 full-service restaurants across the city. The kind of business that survived recessions, pandemics, and every other thing life throws at you when you refuse to quit. The number wasn't one I recognized, but I picked up anyway. Something about a Tuesday morning makes you answer the phone. "Mr. Wallace, my name is Philip Garza. I'm the catering director at the Belmont Grand, where your son's rehearsal dinner was held last Saturday." I remembered him. Tall guy, professional, kept everything running on time. "Great job with the event." "Yes, Philip." "Is there a problem with the bill?" "No, sir. This isn't about the bill. I need you to come see something. Today, if possible. And Mr. Wallace, it's important that your son doesn't know about this visit." My hand tightened around the coffee mug. "What's this about?" "We have a security camera in the private dining alcove. It runs continuously. After the dinner, my team was reviewing footage for our quality assurance records, and we captured a conversation between your son and his fiancée. Sir, you need to hear what they said." I looked through the kitchen window into the dining room. My staff was prepping for lunch service. Same routine as every other day. Normal morning, normal life. "I'll be there at 2. "Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Use the service entrance. Ask for me directly." He hung up. I set down my phone and leaned against the counter. On the wall beside me was a framed photo from last Christmas. My son, Brandon, 36 years old, arm around his fiancée Valerie. My daughter, Keisha, 32, standing next to her husband, Jerome. Me in the middle, smiling like a man who had everything figured out. Doris would have been standing right beside me if the stroke hadn't taken her 5 years ago. "Something you need to hear." "Dad?" Keisha's voice startled me. She was standing in the doorway with her tablet, already dressed in her manager's uniform. She'd been working at the restaurant for 8 years now. Started as a hostess, worked her way up. "You look pale. Everything okay?" "Fine, sweetheart. Just a vendor call." She nodded. "Hey. So Jerome and I were looking at the numbers for the Buckhead location. Profit margins are up 6% this quarter. I think we should talk about expanding the menu there." "That's great. Let's discuss it this afternoon." She tilted her head. "You sure you're okay?" "I'm sure." She left, and I watched her walk through the dining room, checking table settings, straightening chairs. Keisha had always been the worker, the one who showed up, put in the hours, never asked for shortcuts. Brandon was different. Brandon was always different. My son had moved to Nashville 8 years ago to pursue what he called investment consulting. I never fully understood what that meant, and every time I asked, he'd give me some vague answer about portfolio management and client acquisition. What I did understand was the money, the constant requests. "Dad, I need $20,000 to cover a client shortfall. I'll pay you back next quarter." "Dad, my car lease is up. Can you help me bridge the gap?" "Just $3,500. "Dad, Valerie and I found the perfect condo. We just need help with the down payment. $60,000. I added it up once. Over 8 years, I'd given Brandon roughly $220,000. Keisha had never asked for a single cent beyond her salary. The rehearsal dinner alone had cost me $45,000. Valerie had chosen the Belmont Grand, the most expensive venue in Midtown Atlanta. Prime rib, lobster, a 12-piece band, 200 guests, most of them people I'd never met, friends of Valerie's family from Charlotte. The wedding itself, scheduled for 3 weeks from now, had a budget of $180,000. I was paying for all of it. Valerie had insisted on a cash registry. No gifts, just contributions to our future. She'd told everyone with that polished smile of hers. Starting fresh, building something real. I'd thought it was practical. At 1:45, I told Keisha I had an errand and drove to the Belmont Grand. Philip met me at the service entrance, led me through a back hallway lined with stainless steel carts and stacked linens. His office was small, neat, a desk with 2 monitors. "Mr. Wallace, please sit down. Just show me." He nodded, clicked his mouse. The monitor showed a wide-angle view of a small dining alcove, a private room off the main space. Dim lighting, a table with 2 chairs. Brandon and Valerie sat facing each other. The timestamp read 10:47 p.m., about an hour after most guests had left the rehearsal dinner. Philip turned up the volume. Valerie's voice first, clear and sharp despite the slight camera distortion. 18 months. That's the plan. 12 months married. 6 months for the divorce proceedings. By then, we'll have the restaurant sale finalized and the money split. Brandon leaned back. He's 64. The man should have retired 5 years ago. We're doing him a favor. He gets to relax, we get the cash. Everybody wins. Valerie laughed. Your dad's net worth is what? $4.5 million with the restaurants, the house, the retirement accounts? At least. And once I'm on the business accounts as a partner, I can authorize the sale without his approval if we structure it right. My buddy Marcus already has a restaurant group in Dallas that'll pay $3 million just for the brand and the locations. What about your sister? Brandon waved his hand. Keisha's a worker bee. She'll keep collecting her little paycheck until the doors close. By the time she figures out what happened, we'll be in Costa Rica. And the prenup? Valerie grinned. Already handled. Everything acquired during the marriage is joint property. So the business transfer, the sale proceeds, all of that counts. When we divorce, I keep my half. You keep yours. Clean. Philip paused the video. The room was very quiet. I could hear the ventilation system humming. I stared at the screen. My son's face, frozen mid-sentence, that confident smirk I'd seen 1,000 times. Valerie beside him, leaning forward, eager, $4.5 million. Doing him a favor. Costa Rica. There's more, Philip said softly. About 8 minutes total. They discussed specific timelines, bank routing details. The buyer in Dallas. Send me the full file. He pulled out a USB drive. Already copied it. Video and audio, both. Timestamps, metadata, everything. I took the drive. Held it in my palm like it weighed 50 pounds. Mr. Wallace. I debated with myself for a week before calling you. But I watched you at that dinner. How you toasted your son. How proud you were. I couldn't stay silent. You did the right thing, I said. My voice sounded far away. He walked me to the door. I'm sorry it's this kind of news. I sat in my truck in the parking garage for 20 minutes. Didn't turn the key. Just sat there, holding that USB drive, staring at nothing. Doris would have seen it. She always had a sense for people's intentions. She'd warned me once, years ago, when Brandon first started asking for money. Don't make it easy for him, Ray. If he doesn't earn it, he won't value it. I hadn't listened. I drove home the long way, through neighborhoods I hadn't visited in years. Past the corner where I'd parked my food truck in '85. Past the building where the first Wallace's Southern Table opened in '93. Past the hospital where both my kids were born. My house sat on 2 acres in Druid Hills, 5 bedrooms, built in 1920, restored from the ground up by me and Doris over 15 years. The magnolia tree in the front yard was one she'd planted the year Keisha was born. I parked in the driveway and stared at that tree for a long time. Inside, I went straight to my study, locked the door, plugged in the USB drive and watched the entire recording. 8 minutes and 14 seconds of my son and his fiancée dismantling everything I'd built, piece by piece, like they were discussing a stock portfolio. Then I watched it again. Then I pulled out a yellow legal pad and started writing. The money I'd given Brandon over 8 years, $220,000, roughly. The rehearsal dinner, $45,000. The wedding budget committed so far, $90,000 in deposits. The house Valerie had been pressuring Brandon to ask me about, wanting me to add them to the deed for estate planning purposes, appraised at $1.8 million. My 3 restaurants grossing about $6 million annually with a net value, including real estate, equipment, and brand, of approximately 4.5 million. They wanted all of it. I opened my laptop and searched Estate Protection Attorney Atlanta. The top-rated firm was Baker, Whitfield and Associates, specializing in business succession, trust formation, and asset defense. They had an opening the next morning at 8:30. I booked it. Then I sat back and played the recording one more time. Doing him a favor. He gets to relax. They thought I was a tired old man ready to be put out to pasture. They were about to learn something about this particular old man. I didn't sleep. Spent the night at my desk with that legal pad, documenting every financial transaction, every suspicious conversation, every moment that suddenly made sense in a new and terrible light. Brandon's sudden interest in restaurant operations 6 months ago. His questions about our vendors, our lease agreements, our profit margins. Valerie's charm offensive. Calling me dad. Bringing me pecan pie on Sundays. How she'd volunteered to organize the family finances. By dawn, I had 16 pages. The Baker, Whitfield office was on the 32nd floor of a building in Buckhead. Glass walls, leather furniture, the kind of place that charged by the hour and was worth every penny. A paralegal led me to a conference room with a view of the entire skyline. 5 minutes later, a man walked in. Mid-60s like me. Reading glasses. Firm handshake. Mr. Wallace. I'm Henry Baker. Tell me everything, I told him. Played the recording. Showed him my notes. Explained about Brandon and Valerie. The wedding. The plan to take over my business and sell it to a buyer in Dallas. Explained that my daughter Keisha had no involvement. That she was the one who actually worked for everything she had. Henry listened without interrupting. When I finished, he took off his glasses and set them on the table. Mr. Wallace, I see this more often than you'd think. Adult children who view their parents' wealth as a future inheritance, they're simply collecting early. But you're in a strong position because you found out before the wedding, not after. Can they get my business? Not if we act immediately. Georgia law gives us several options. Irrevocable trust, business entity restructuring, beneficiary modifications. We can build a wall around your assets that no one gets through without your explicit authorization. What do you recommend? Everything. Trust creation, will revision, removal of your son from any business documents, beneficiary changes on all accounts, and I'd recommend updating your power of attorney. Currently, who holds that? My stomach dropped. Brandon. I gave it to him 2 years ago when I had knee surgery. Valerie suggested it. Henry nodded slowly. That needs to change today. If he's holding power of attorney, he has legal authority to make decisions on your behalf under certain circumstances. We revoke that immediately and assign it to someone you trust. My daughter, Keisha. Done. We spent 3 hours going through paperwork. Every asset I owned transferred into a protective trust structure. The restaurants, the house, the investment accounts, the retirement funds. Keisha was named as the primary beneficiary with a 60% share. Brandon would receive the minimum required by Georgia law and nothing more. Henry handed me a folder at the end. One more thing. If your son is living independently, there's no eviction issue. But I'd recommend formally notifying both him and his fiancée that they are not authorized to enter your business properties or access any accounts. They don't have access to any accounts. Are you certain? No joint accounts? No authorized user status on credit cards? I froze. The business credit card. I'd added Brandon as an authorized user last year when he offered to handle supply orders for the Buckhead location. Another one of Valerie's suggestions. Remove him immediately, Henry said. Today. Call your bank before you leave this building. I made the call from the elevator. The next 2 weeks, I watched. Really watched for the first time in years. Brandon called 3 times. Each call followed the same script. Hey, Dad. Just checking in. Everything good with the business? You seem tired lately. You know, Valerie and I have been talking, and we think you should start slowing down. Enjoy life. Travel. You've earned it. Translation. Sell the business so we can take the money and leave the country. Valerie called once. Her voice was honey and warmth. Dad Wallace. I'm so excited about the wedding. We found the most amazing honeymoon package in Belize. Only $22,000 for 2 weeks. Brandon said you'd want to give that as a wedding gift. I said I'd think about it. The wedding was now 12 days away. Keisha noticed something was wrong. She cornered me after the lunch rush on a Wednesday. Dad, talk to me. You've been different for 2 weeks. Distant. Are you sick? I looked at my daughter. The one who came to work every day, who knew every employee by name, who treated my business like it mattered because to her, it did. I'm not sick, but I need to show you something, and it's going to hurt. I played her the recording in my office after closing, watched her face go through every stage, confusion, disbelief, rage, then something quiet and sad. She sat still for a long time after it ended. I knew Valerie was wrong, she said finally. I felt it. But Brandon, her voice cracked. He's my brother. I know. What are you going to do? I've already done it. I told her about Henry Baker, the trust, the asset protection. I told her she was now my primary beneficiary and that she held power of attorney. She stared at me. Dad, I don't want Brandon's share. I want my brother to be a decent person. I know that too, but we don't always get what we want. She wiped her eyes. When are you telling him? This Saturday. They're both coming for dinner. I need to be there. No, Dad, Keisha. I need to do this alone. If you're there, it becomes a fight between siblings. This is between me and my son. She disagreed but respected my decision. That was Keisha. Always had, even when it was hard. Saturday evening, I cooked dinner myself. Brisket, collard greens, cornbread, sweet potato pie. The same meal I'd made every Sunday when the kids were young. Doris's recipes, all of them. Brandon and Valerie arrived at 6. She wore a sundress and heels, carried a bottle of wine. He wore that confident smile. Dad, Brandon hugged me. Place smells amazing. Like old times. Valerie kissed my cheek. Dad Wallace, we brought your favorite Merlot. We sat down to eat. I served the food, poured the wine, made small talk. Brandon talked about the wedding plans. Valerie talked about the seating chart. I nodded and listened and watched them perform. Halfway through dinner, Brandon set down his fork. So Dad, I wanted to talk about something. Valerie and I have been thinking. After the wedding, maybe it's time to bring me into the business officially. Partner level. I could handle operations while you step back. You've been running this thing forever. You deserve a break. There it was. Step 1 of the plan. Get on the accounts. Authorize the sale. I wiped my mouth with my napkin. Set it beside my plate. That's interesting, Brandon. Because I recently had a conversation about the business too. With Philip Garza. Brandon's fork stopped midair. Who? The catering director at the Belmont Grand, where the rehearsal dinner was held. They have security cameras in the private dining alcove. Silence. Valerie's face changed first. The warmth drained out of it like water from a cracked glass. I pulled out my phone and pressed play. Brandon's own voice filled the dining room. He's 64. The man should have retired 5 years ago. We're doing him a favor. He gets to relax. We get the cash. Valerie's voice followed. Your dad's net worth is what? $4.5 million with the restaurants, the house, the retirement accounts. Brandon pushed back from the table. Dad, wait. I let it play. Every word. The 18-month timeline. The divorce plan. The buyer in Dallas. Costa Rica. Keisha being dismissed as a worker bee who'd never figure it out. When it ended, I set the phone on the table between us. Brandon was pale. Valerie gripped her wine glass so hard her knuckles were white. Dad, that was. We were drinking. We were just talking. It wasn't serious. You had a buyer lined up in Dallas. His name is Marcus. He runs a restaurant group. That's not drunk talk. Brandon, that's a business plan. Valerie stood. This is a violation of our privacy. That recording was made without our consent. It's illegal. Take that up with your attorney. I've already taken it up with mine. Brandon's face shifted. What do you mean? I mean that as of 2 weeks ago, every asset I own is in an irrevocable trust. My restaurants, my house, my savings, my retirement accounts, all protected. You have been removed from every account, every document, every authorization. Your power of attorney has been revoked and reassigned. You can't do that. It's done. My attorney assures me it's ironclad. Valerie's composure finally cracked. This is insane. We're your family. Family doesn't sit in private rooms planning how to steal from each other. Brandon stood up, chair scraping against the hardwood floor. So what? You're cutting me off? Your own son? I'm protecting what I built. What your mother and I built together. From people who see it as an easy payday. The word payday hit him. He recognized it from his own mouth on that recording. Dad, please. His voice dropped. I made a mistake. Valerie and I got carried away. We weren't actually going to do it. You had a buyer, Brandon. You researched prenup law. You calculated my net worth. You planned your escape to Costa Rica. That's not getting carried away. That's premeditation. He looked at Valerie. She looked at the door. The wedding is canceled, I said. I've already contacted the Belmont Grand. The deposits I can recover, I will. The ones I can't, that's the cost of learning who my son really is. Valerie grabbed her purse. I'm leaving. Good. She walked out without looking back. The front door closed behind her. Not slammed, just closed. The sound of someone who knew the game was over. Brandon stood in my dining room, surrounded by his mother's recipes, in the house where he grew up, and stared at me like I was a stranger. You're going to regret this, he said. I've been regretting things for years, Brandon. Regretting every check I wrote that taught you the world owed you something. Regretting every time I said yes when I should have said no. Your mother warned me. She saw what I was too proud to see. Don't bring Mom into this. Your mother is the reason I'm doing this. Because she would have done it a long time ago. He grabbed his jacket. Fine. Keep your restaurants. But don't come crying to me when you're old and alone and nobody's there. I'd rather be alone than surrounded by people waiting for me to die so they can cash in. He left. The door slammed this time, hard enough that the photo frames on the hallway wall rattled. I stood in the dining room looking at the table. 2 plates barely touched. The wine Valerie had brought. The sweet potato pie cooling on the counter. I sat down. Ate my dinner alone. Doris's brisket. Doris's cornbread. Food made with love by a woman who understood what family was supposed to mean. The weeks that followed were hard in ways I didn't expect. Day 3. Brandon texted Keisha, told her I'd gone crazy. She didn't respond. Day 7. I received a letter from an attorney representing Brandon, claiming undue influence and requesting a review of my mental competency. Henry Baker responded within 24 hours, with documentation from 3 independent physicians confirming full cognitive capacity. The claim was withdrawn. Day 10. Valerie returned the engagement ring to a jeweler. I found out because the jeweler called me, since I'd bought it. $18,000. I told him to sell it and donate the proceeds to the food bank. Day 15. A negative review appeared on the Wallace's Southern Table Google page. 1 star. Terrible food. Rude owner. Avoid this place. The account was created that same day. No other reviews. I reported it and moved on. Day 20. Jerome, Keisha's husband, came to see me at the restaurant after hours. He sat across from me in the empty dining room. Mr. Wallace, I just want you to know, Keisha and I, we're here. Whatever you need. I looked at this man who'd married my daughter, who worked as a high school principal, who volunteered at his church every weekend, who had never once asked me for $1. Jerome, you've been more of a son to me than my own son ever was. He didn't say anything, just nodded. Sometimes that's enough. Day 30. I made changes at the restaurant, promoted my sous chef Maria to executive chef at the Buckhead location, gave Keisha the official title of operations director with an equity stake, brought in a business consultant to create a 5-year succession plan. The restaurants would survive me. They would thrive under Keisha's leadership. I also started something new. Every Tuesday and Thursday morning, I taught a free cooking class at the community center in East Atlanta. Basic skills, kitchen safety, budget meal planning. The students were mostly single parents, retirees, A few teenagers trying to learn life skills nobody taught them at home. A woman named Loretta, 71 years old, stayed after class 1 Tuesday. She'd made the best scrambled eggs I'd ever seen from a beginner. "Mr. Wallace, why do you do this? You could be relaxing somewhere, because food is how I know how to love people, and I'm learning to share it with people who appreciate it." She smiled. "Well, we sure appreciate you." That afternoon, I went to a jazz club in Virginia Highland, sat at the bar, ordered a bourbon, listened to a quartet play standards I hadn't heard since Doris was alive. The trumpet player was phenomenal. After the set, I told him so. We ended up talking for an hour about music, about Atlanta, about the way life changes direction when you're not looking. His name was Curtis. He invited me to sit in on rehearsals sometime. Just listen, no pressure. I started going every Wednesday. 2 months after the dinner, my phone rang at 7. 0 inches the morning. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Dad." Brandon's voice. Different than before. Smaller. I waited. Valerie left. She took everything from the condo, cleaned out our joint account. She's gone. I don't know where. I stayed silent. I lost my job too. Turns out my biggest client was a friend of hers. When she left, so did they. I'm behind on rent. I've been sleeping on a friend's couch. I didn't say anything. His breathing was shaky. I keep replaying what happened. At the dinner, the recording, and I keep trying to tell myself it wasn't that bad, that you overreacted. But then I hear my own voice saying those things, and I can't pretend anymore. I listened. I don't know when I became this person, Dad. I really don't. I look at Keisha, and she's everything I'm not. She works hard. She's honest. She actually cares about people. And I was sitting in a room planning how to rob my own father. What kind of person does that? I still didn't speak. I'm not calling for money. I don't deserve money from you. I'm not calling for a place to stay. I don't deserve that either. I just needed to say, I'm sorry. And I know that's not enough, but I don't have anything else to offer right now. A long pause. I asked myself something, I said finally. After I saw that recording, I asked myself, did I do this? Did I raise you to be this way? Did I make it too easy for you? Did I teach you that love was a transaction? Dad, I don't know the answer. Maybe I did some things wrong. Maybe your mother's death broke something in both of us that we never fixed. But whatever I did or didn't do as a father, the choice to sit in that room and plan to steal from me, that was your choice, not mine. I know. And I don't trust you right now, Brandon. I may never trust you again. I know that too. If you want to rebuild something, start with yourself. Get a real job. Not consulting, not schemes. Real work. Learn what it means to earn something. And if you do that, if you actually change, and not just perform change, then maybe one day we can sit down together. Okay, but it's going to take time. A lot of time. I understand. Goodbye, Brandon. Goodbye, Dad. And thank you for answering the phone. I hung up, sat on my back porch with my coffee, and watched the sun come up over the magnolia tree, Doris's tree. The leaves rustled in the morning breeze, and for a moment, just a moment, I could swear I felt her sitting beside me. Did I believe Brandon was sincere? I didn't know. People can surprise you in both directions. My own son surprised me with his capacity for betrayal. Maybe he could surprise me again with something better. Or maybe he'd revert the moment things got comfortable. I couldn't control that. What I could control was this: my morning, my coffee, my restaurant opening in 3 hours, my cooking class on Tuesday, jazz rehearsal on Wednesday, Keisha's quarterly report sitting on my desk, Jerome's invitation to Sunday brunch, Curtis asking if I wanted to learn the trumpet, Loretta's scrambled eggs getting better every week. I picked up my phone. A text from Keisha. Morning, Dad. See you at the restaurant. Maria's trying a new peach cobbler recipe. You have to taste it. Another from Curtis. Wednesday rehearsal moved to 7 p.m. You in? Another from the community center. Mr. Wallace. 3 new students signed up for Tuesday's class. Can you handle 10? Not a single message about money. Not a single demand. Not a single manipulation. I finished my coffee and walked inside, past the dining room where I'd served that final dinner, past the hallway where the photos still hung, including one of Brandon as a little boy, sitting on my shoulders at a Braves game, laughing. I didn't take it down. That boy existed once. Maybe he still did, somewhere under all the choices he'd made since. I got dressed, grabbed my keys, drove to the restaurant. Keisha was already there, checking inventory, talking to the morning crew, doing what she always did, being the person she'd always been. I tied on my apron, turned on the stove, and started prepping the day's special, Doris's chicken and dumplings. The recipe she'd scribbled on an index card 40 years ago, stained with flour and love. 5 years ago, I lost my wife and thought the world had ended. 2 months ago, I lost my son to his own greed and thought it had ended again. But here's what nobody tells you about losing people. Sometimes the people you lose were never really yours, and sometimes the people who stay, the ones who show up every day, who work beside you, who love you without conditions, those are the ones who were yours all along. I wasn't building an empire anymore. I was building a life. Smaller, quieter, but mine. Every bit of it earned, protected, and shared with people who understood that love isn't something you take. The lunch rush started at 11:30. Keisha worked the floor. Maria ran the kitchen. I floated between them, tasting sauces, greeting regulars, doing the thing I'd done for 41 years, feeding people, making them feel at home. A customer stopped me on her way out. An older woman, maybe my age, big smile. "Mr. Wallace, that fried chicken is a religious experience. Your mama must have taught you right." "My wife, actually, well, she taught you good. Don't ever stop cooking." "I won't," I said. "I've got too many people to feed." She laughed and walked into the Atlanta sunshine. I wiped down her table, reset the silverware, and got ready for the next customer. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left.